what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome back to your Tuesday live stream. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Pleased to be joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy C.J. Vogel. Also joined by my good friend and esteemed co-worker and colleague, newest member of the On Texas Football family, my man Jeff Howe, joining us. Thank you guys for joining us. No matter where you're joining us from, we really appreciate you guys taking the time. Throw out your questions, comments. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Just throw out a super chat out there. Also, we'll get into the coaches and guess all the programs that are at spring meetings. Bobby's out there, so we got some of the quotes to get to from Sark. We'll get to some of the quotes from some of the other representatives and administrative people from the SEC. As a matter of fact, Greg Sankey had a lot to say about the SEC and the current state of college sports, the college football playoff format, all of that kind of stuff. So we'll get to all of it and more, but throw out your questions. That's what we'll throw out questions, comments. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. That'll be the main focus of the show today. All right, gentlemen, let's dive right into it. Sark was at the SEC spring meetings. He did have, I think, kind of a breakout session, and he also spoke to the media, kind of had a media availability. There was kind of another breakout session with some other platforms that he did interviews with. On one of those platforms at the SEC spring meetings, and I got it from College Sports Sirius XM, Sark did say that the $40 million roster report was, I think he called it irresponsible reporting. That's basically what he called it. Essentially, he's saying they do not have a $40 million roster. What say you, gentlemen? I remember when the report came out, it was refuted, I believe, by Chip Brown throughout his own report saying Texas did not have a $40 million roster initially. That was Kurt Bowles' report from Cron.com. What are your thoughts about the comments from Sark refuting that report?
CJ, isn't 25 roughly the number we threw out there? Like right around in that area?
Around that area.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 40 million. I think that's a little high. But I don't think that there are many schools out there right now. And look, who's Kurt Cignetti has been saying there's several teams north of 30 right now. I think that's a pretty common ground to be around for a price of a college football NIL roster evaluation, kind of 30 million, kind of in that range. I think 40 is a little steep, but 25, 30 is where you're going to see most of your playoff contending teams in the range of.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the 40 number came from, and I'm not knocking Kirk's reporting at all or knocking him. I just think some context needs to be – I don't know if context is the right term, but it's just one of those deals, man, where it's like if it doesn't sound – you have to hear the number – and understand, like, okay, does that sound like it's not right? Like, does it sound off kilter? And if somebody, even if it was a good, reputable source, would have told me 40 million, I'd have had to quadruple check that because 40 million wouldn't have sounded right for a roster. So, look, maybe it's closer to that. There's probably the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Here's where I come out at the end of the day. Is we're in the NIL era. We're in the pre-house settlement era of NIL. I struggle to wrap my head around the fact that for years and years and years and years and years, Texas was mocked for not using its resources and having all these resources and having these great advantages and putting a lackluster product, to put it kindly, on the field. And now that Texas is using its resources and the BBs are back in the box and everybody's on the same page, and you've got a lot of, quite frankly, rich donors, people that want to contribute to this program winning a national championship, and they're well within their right to. Nobody's going to tell, rich guys that have, expendable income, and gals that have expendable income, how they're going to spend their money. If they want to use it to buy a championship football team, that's within the rules right now. So you can't to vilify Texas and to make Texas the villain. I don't know, CJ. I just struggle with that. I know I'm rambling a little bit. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I said, I struggle to figure out how, okay, you mock Texas for not using the resources. Now that they're using them, they're everything that's wrong with college football. That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, you can't have it both ways, because I think ultimately Texas fans would be upset if there were a lot of schools outspending Texas, number one.
Exactly.
Why the 40 million thing didn't shock me, because I'm like, yeah, because Texas, if these numbers start to trickle out, whatever, be reported. I remember the Kurt Signetti statement where he named a few schools that he think are spending north of 30, close to 40, whatever $1 million on their rosters. And there's only a few schools. And hell, we probably can all sit here and kind of predict what schools that could be, because you need a certain affluent, all right, donor base. You need sugar mamas and sugar daddies, and not every program is going to have those kind of resources, right? But I think if Texas fans, if there were a ton of schools outspending Texas and getting better results, Texas fans would be upset about that. So it didn't shock me that the standard is the standard. That also should apply to maximizing the resources. So yeah, I do understand that people don't like it because it makes people uncomfortable that college players are now making this much money, and this $1 billion in sports industrial complex has now been exposed for what it is. But the truth is, Texas should not be ashamed. I'm with you, Jeff. That's ridiculous. This is the time now where you can flex that muscle. You do it all above board. It's all within the rules, the construct of the current rules, right? This purgatory that we're in. And right now, honestly, this is why the $40 million thing didn't shock me. And honestly, it actually, to me, I supported it. And I said they should be spending $40 million because you can do it right now. Why you can do it? Because in about 3-4 years, you ain't gonna be able to do it. They're gonna try to put everybody in an equal playing field, which is fine. I'm not against equal playing field. I'm all about it. My point is, right now you can maximize the advantage. Then what the hell are you waiting for? Spend the $40 million. Spend as much as you can. The arch years. Maximize the arch years. Spend $40 million if you got to on the roster. I got no problem with it. If it ain't $40 million, I get it. And I get why Sark wouldn't want people to think it's $40 million. I get it. He just don't want people to think it, because if it's $40 million and then he doesn't get to the championship again, then people really gonna start talking crazy. All right, so I get why he don't want it to be $40 million, but I think Texas should maximize this window of an advantage, the arch window, but also the window before the house settlement comes in and we get more guardrails on all of this stuff, and they try to get everybody on more of an equal playing field. Right now, ain't no equal playing field. If you got more money, you can go buy a championship. Go buy a championship. The numbers don't lie right now, all right? Ever since LSU won that title, it doesn't matter how you do it, but the team that has won the championship has also had the most players drafted. That is not a coincidence. That is fact. Every team since then. It's an arms race. It's an arms race. Go outspend them. Period.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. And I don't like to look at it as a championship window. At Texas, you should be, in this day and age, especially where, Alabama's been, Georgia's been. You look at Ohio State and their competitiveness, top of the college football world. Texas should be in that conversation year in and year out to compete for national championships. But I look at that 2-year window with Arch Manning and say, this has to be every possible chip you can muster, every single cent, coin, shekel, whatever you want to call it. Put it in the middle and find a way to get that talent that you need to get over the hump on campus. And I think Texas is doing that. Obviously, we've seen it, right? With 5 defensive linemen out of the portal this window alone. You go get a really good tight end, a really solid wide receiver. You've addressed every position that is needed to be addressed, making sure that you have the depth, the quality talent, and beyond. I like it. And Texas fans should love it, right? You have a great quarterback, one that you believe can be transcendent at the position. It'd be a disservice to the fan base and those guys writing those big checks if Texas didn't do that. So while the rules are the way the rules are, go buy yourself a championship, and Texas doing just that. And honestly, for Texas fans, who cares what others are saying, right? You shouldn't.
Yeah. This is going to get me riled up. I see some stuff in the chat. And by the way, chat's lively right now, so thanks to everybody. Something Tommy Tuberville said, Texas only winning because of NIL. I wouldn't trust anything Tommy Tuberville said if he got his tongue notarized. Like, the next truthful thing that comes out of that guy's mouth will be the first. So forgive me for not believing anything that the Senator Tuberville has to say. So shove that aside. This is the other thing that really bothers me about college athletics and where we are right now. And it has nothing to do with the players getting paid. Nobody batted an eye when the big TV contracts started rolling in and the conferences started making money and the athletic departments were making money hand over fist, and the ADs were making money, and the coaches were getting paid multi-millions of dollars a year. Nobody had a problem with this until the players started getting paid. Why should they not be compensated for this? Folks, this is not new. NIL did not start college athletics becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's been going on for years and years and decades. Why is it suddenly a problem? Number one, that the players get paid finally, and two, the schools that have the money and are able to do it. Why is that a problem? I say the same thing about Texas. If Texas wants to spend $40 million on a roster, spend $40 million. I don't care. Just understand that if that gets out and it's true, there's going to be a set of expectations that you better be better than you were last year. You better take it another step forward. Otherwise, people are going to question, how'd you have a $40 million roster and you weren't better? That's one part of it. Go ahead, Rod. I know
No. I'm just saying expectations can't get higher. At this point, they can't. Now with the Arch years, like they can't get any higher. Because if Arch does anything other than win a national title, definitely play for one, Longhorn fans gonna think it. They're gonna put him in the same category with Chris Sims and with Quinn Ewers. That's a disappointment. That's just the reality of it. So expectations can't get any higher. To your point about the $40 million.
Yeah. And again, this is not me. I'm not saying anything negative on Kirk's report. This actually has nothing to do with that report, how I feel. The other part of this is go back to 2022 when Texas A&M spent, I don't know, was it 25 million on a recruiting class? Yeah. You got Nick Saban out there saying, oh, yeah, they bought their class.
Hey.
That was it. It's in the rules. It's within the rules.
Yep. You can do just that.
Spend $60 million on a recruiting class to get the best recruiting class money can buy. That is within the rules because there are no rules. The only people you can blame for this is the NCAA, who did what the NCAA does all the time, and that's why we're in the mess we're in right now. They sat on their hands. They did nothing. They sat back and said, hey, this isn't our problem. Well, guess what? It's everybody's problem now because you didn't do anything. Now you want to go to Congress. You want to go to the president and get them to intervene. You want Congress to intervene to do your job for you when you didn't do it? Mark Emmert and the powers that be a few years ago, man, miss me with all of that. So I will stand up for the players getting paid. I don't have a problem with that because, again, nobody batted an eye when the billions and billions of dollars of TV money were coming in and the players were getting none of it. Suddenly, now that they're getting their cut, oh, my gosh, college football is going to hell in a handbasket. No, it's not. It is a great game, and you can do one or two things. You can either continue to bitch and moan and piss and complain about it, or you can do what I'm going to do, which is love every Saturday in the fall when I get to watch my team.
I don't know why, but for some reason, and those who will get it. But everybody remembers Nick Nolte's character in Blue Chips.
Coach Pete.
Remember that? Yeah, right. Remember the classic line? The best players money can buy. The best players money can buy. That's all I keep hearing in my head right now. Coach Pete Bell. But it's within the rules, though. It ain't within the rules. Now we're talking about within the rules. You should go out there and get the best players money can buy. I didn't hate on the Aggies when they did it. I applaud. I applaud. I said, you know what? This is what big boy football is about. Good for you. Tired of being in the shadow of Texas. Give them out, and for like an offseason, they had a rivalry with Alabama. You know when you pissed off Nick Saban, you know you did something right, and the Aggies were doing something right in that recruiting. You pissed off the GOAT. You upset the GOAT. Now you couldn't back it up on the field, but nobody can really back it up on the field against the GOAT. Very few. CV says I love Mad Jeff. Jeff needs to. Hey. I'm with him on that though. I agree. I think he had a good point though about this is everybody's upset now because the players are starting to get the money. The money's been there for a while, but now the players are getting the money. Man, it's making people feel a certain kind of way
on multiple levels, Rod. On multiple levels on this deal. It ain't no fun when the rabbits got the gun. On multiple levels on this deal.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've long said that the fans most outrageously upset about NIL are always the fans of schools that can't afford the big players. In other words, get your money up, right?
Money up.
A lot of it goes to Oklahoma.
Yeah. By the way, on A&M's recruiting class, I didn't sweat it because you know why? It's Texas A&M football. History tells you they're more than likely to screw it up than they are to cash in on it. So I wasn't really worried about the Aggies. But again, if your donor base wants to spend that much money, go ahead. There are no rules.
Yep.
This is I'm going the opposite of Walter and the Big Lebowski. This is Nam. There are no rules at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. A lot of pocket watching going on right now in college football. To the point in the chat here. Okay, let's get to this super chat here quickly. Get to another question, and then we'll dive into some of the other things Sark had to say there at SEC spring meetings. Retired working man says, "I had my truck washed today. I can drive to Texas now." You damn right. Get to Texas as soon as possible. Retired working man. All right, you got to get there as soon as possible.
Hopefully, you got to watch before all that rain came in because that was crazy last night.
Dude, we got damn near 3 inches of rain. What was it, like over 2.5 inches of rain? Something like that.
Goodness,
it was a lot and not a great amount of time.
It came down. Yeah, it was like coming down like in buckets. I agree with you. My dogs was freaking out the whole damn night. That's why I know it was raining all night. All right, getting back to Doug. Doug, question here says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Do you think it will ever come to a point that college players' salaries will become public like the professional sports leagues?" Oh, the only reason those salaries are really public, like we know what players are worth because of essentially franchise tag values, right? NFL makes that public, and it really is the agents that are making all this stuff public. The agents are the one that they put out the contract numbers, pretty much, and that's how we know based on precedent who's making what, and this deal compared to that deal. It's the agents. They are the same agents. They just call them representatives when they're representing college kids, but they're still basically a lot of them are just NFL agents. They have a different set of rules they operate by, but they know the same people.
Doug, it's a good question. I think if there was, we're not too far away in how far is the question, and I don't know the answer. I think at some point we're gonna to bring some organization to the chaos. You're gonna have to have something that resembles a collective bargaining agreement. And I think with that, whenever that does happen, I think maybe you see that. And I don't look. I'm out of my depth on a little bit on how state institutions work, but I would think if it became a deal where student athletes are technically employees of the university or the athletic department, state salaries are public, so that's one way of it. But I don't know, Rod. I know you got some strong opinions about the NFL CBA and how collective bargaining, because you've been in the PA before in another life, but I feel like collective bargaining is coming at some point. There's just too much money for there not to be some form, maybe not full on like we see it with the NFL and the NBA, but some level of collective bargaining I think is going to happen at some point.
But to that point, you would have to have some type of unionization or at least some organized group to represent the players in that negotiation. That is, I don't know how the hell that would happen and who would oversee it, who would control it, who would spearhead it. That's the real question. I think on the other side, the administrative side, they're ready for it, but we don't know if this player empowerment era that we're in, we haven't really seen it organized. They're getting more rights and they got more power because they got more money, all right, more leverage, but it's not really organized. There's not like a body that speaks for the players, kind of thing. And then they have to pay dues, player dues, got to pay dues into your union, that kind of thing. And everybody's afraid of unionization in this country, period. We don't like unions anymore. We definitely, but in sports leagues, they seem to be necessary. Whether you think they're evil or not, it's a necessary evil in sports. So I'm with you. I mean, that's what, and then you get to unions, unionization, and you're talking about collective bargaining agreements, and then you're talking about basically employees.
Yeah.
Something we try to avoid. We don't want, there's an amateurism. We want to avoid them becoming employees. It seems like we've tried to avoid that. We've done everything to avoid it. NIL and all this kind of stuff. And now we're going to do revenue sharing. And in the end, it does seem like, that major college sports, especially football, probably separate from the rest of them because that's a different revenue beast altogether. In the end, they're going to be employees. Like when it's all, I don't know when it's going to be all said and done. But the NIL thing didn't work the way we thought either. Right. And by the way, this is exactly what the NCAA wanted. To be fair, they wanted it to blow up. They acted they in a short-sighted way and irresponsibly, by the way, just at borderline malpractice. But it was intentional. They won't tell you that, but I'll tell you that. They didn't do something about NIL. That idea has been out there forever. They didn't want to do anything about it, and they wanted it to become the Wild Wild West, so people are against it.
Yeah.
If you put guardrails on it, it would have been way too successful. And it'd been like, see, the NCAA, y'all, some idiots, y'all should have been done this. They wanted to blow up, and then they wanted people to come back to the NCAA begging them, please come save college football from itself. And what the NCAA has realized is, you so hate it, we'll never go back to asking the NCAA. Hell, you just had Greg Sankey say, what did Greg Sankey say? There are people asking us, why are you still connected to the NCAA? Why are you still subordinate to the NCAA?
Yeah.
No, he said that out loud. That's how little power the NCAA has now. All right, they are a rudderless, toothless organization. And they've been a borderline criminal syndicate for the last 70 years. Yeah. And now everybody knows it, including Capitol Hill. And by the way, more importantly, the courts know it. That's why they can't win a damn thing in court, because the courts are like, y'all are anti-American. Like y'all are violating all types of constitutional law in this country, because y'all are basically a criminal syndicate.
We forget that there was a couple Supreme Court decisions. I can't remember if it was right around the time NIL came into play, where basically the Supreme Court said, NCAA, you guys basically you're all bark no bite at this point. Like not only are you that, but you're pretty corrupt, and you've been corrupt for a long time. And I don't know why you brought this to us, but now that we see it, we're gonna let everybody know how corrupt you are with this ruling. I found it hilarious, CJ. I don't know if you saw it, but I saw a couple days ago, Michigan State got it was the formal notice of allegations against Michigan State for some improprieties that happened when Mel Tucker was the coach. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, that might as well be like a written warning instead of a speeding ticket. Like, I'm gonna give you a warning. Like, you just throw that in the glove box and forget about it. Like, what does it matter? Like, oh yeah, we got a notice of allegations for something that happened like 6 years ago. All right, cool. Let me know how that works out for you.
Exactly. And remember, the NCAA, they don't have really an investigative arm. They don't necessarily investigate. That's why compliance departments exist, guys. Self-reporting. Yeah. That's essentially what they want. And then you have the actual journalism reporting, and then somebody breaks story and the NCAA comes and goes, hey, something shady's going on here. Michigan, you've been stealing signs. We need to get in there and do something. They don't investigate a damn thing. They really don't. They don't do. They really don't do much at all. Don't see. Jeff's got me going now by the NCAA. I would tell y'all this: look up Walter Byers. Just Google Walter Byers. He's passed away now. Just Google him if you really want to know how corrupt the NCAA is. Google Walter Byers. That's all I'll tell you, and just read up on him a little bit. We won't go into it here because it's way too boring. But trust me, it's fascinating stuff.
He's going to throw his hat if we keep on talking about court cases.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We're starting to bore ourselves. We got to move on to some more football.
DJ's got some recruiting intel. And I'm worried a hat's going to fly across the screen here.
Let's do that. Yeah, people screaming about the NCAA. That gets old fast. What doesn't get old fast is our friends over at Andy Ludicky. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, my friend Andy Ludicky, he can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO, no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, reach out to Andy and his team. They'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. While franchise ownership isn't for everyone, if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, don't wait. Reach out to Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. All right, thank you very much to Andy Ludick and his team for sponsoring our team here at On Texas Football. All right, let's you got a recruiting nugget for us, CJ? Dive into it. Why not?
Well, how about we cannonball into it? That's a good way to put it. But Richard Wesley, the 5-star Sierra Canyon, California edge rusher, was previously committed to Oregon. He has since backed off of that commitment. That news came about 5 minutes ago or so. Big time commitment to Oregon at the time, but going into these June official visits, backed off. Now, he does have an official visit to Oregon set for June 6th, so he will be back on campus. Maybe a little awkward, right? That's only about a little over a week away for his official visit to Oregon and Eugene to see Dan Lanning once again. But he'll see the Ducks on June 6th. He has an official visit set to Texas June 20th. You see there, he's expected to take official visits to Ohio State. That one is expected to be August 30th. Well, what's the significance of August 30th? That, of course, is when Texas and Ohio State face off in Columbus. So it's very likely that the two last visits that he takes, or back-to-back visits that he will take, will be an official visit to Austin and then an official visit to Columbus, where the Buckeyes will play Texas. So, of course, getting him down to Austin is going to be a huge deal. This is a big-time recruit, top 10 player in the country, maybe the number 1, number 2 player in all of the country at the edge position as well. Also, Texas A&M, no official visit set yet in terms of a specific date. But I would keep the Aggies on alert here as well. It looks like this will be a 4 or 5 team race with Oregon trying to find back a way into this commitment. But this is a big news for the Longhorns. And, of course, news broke last night that he would come to Austin for an official visit June 20th.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there, CJ. All right. Yeah. Longhorns. It does seem like, there are certain positions they want to stockpile. And edge seems to be one of them positions that they want to stockpile. Can never have too many good edge rushers. Daniel says, how does Dan Lanning get that cannonball back? Hey, you got to do what you got to do these days. I don't begrudge any coach from doing some TikTok dance or whatever the hell else the recruit wants to do these days. I mean, you got to get those points any way you can. It used to be before NIL, I think coaches might have had a little bit more, integrity about certain stuff they would do or wouldn't do to get a recruit. With NIL out there now, hey, if a recruit is going, if he has a certain affinity for you because you and him share, a certain inside joke, whatever it is, he wants to let the world in on it via TikTok, you better go with it. We saw Nick Saban dancing in a living room before. Hey, trust me, Nick Saban don't like to dance. Who's that recruit? Do you remember the recruit that had Nick Saban dance? Didn't Nick Saban dance on some video in somebody's living room? Do you remember this? Am I making it? Am I imagining this? You don't remember that?
No, you're right. Right. The one that always gets me is the Brian Kelly with the little spinning globe light, and he's sitting there doing the dances. Oh my goodness! That's one of those monumental times in modern day recruiting where you could just tell for Nick Saban specifically, he was like, I'm out, like I'm done with all of this. This is just not for me.
Yeah. Exactly. Hell, Bill Belichick. I wonder what Belichick is doing. Well, we know what Belichick's doing. There it is. There. Look at it. Hey, look at Nick right there working in the living room, man. Who was this recruit? Did the recruit even work out? Do we know who the guy was that had Nick Saban dancing in the living room? Shoot, man. You gotta do what you gotta do these days.
Is that Nick Saban? Was that Nick Saban doing the Cupid Shuffle? Did I just see that?
It looks like it. Looks like it. Yes, the Cupid Shuffle. Hey, my first dance with my wife was the Cupid Shuffle. Boom. As I got
you're a classy man, Rock.
I'm just saying it's an easy song. I mean, it literally are giving you directions while you're going, so you can't look like a fool. Just follow the directions, and you won't look stupid or too stupid.
If I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out.
Exactly. They're going to give you the direct. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. Boom. That's that move.
Man, that's so – I can't do it. I just can't – because it's Brian Kelly, That's
great.
I can't put my finger on Brian Kelly. I just can't. This certainly is not what I was ever expecting to see either.
Like I said, you got to do what you got to do, man. Remember he put that y'all on that? Y'all. He started trying to talk like he's from down south. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. Got to do it these days. All right, how about this one?
Brian Kelly is like your Brian Kelly at LSU doing the recruiting stuff. And I love my mom, but it kind of reminds me like when my mom figured out how to use emojis on text messages. And I'm getting texts with emojis that like don't make any sense. Like, I don't know why you said that. Well, I thought it looked cute. Like, well, yeah, but I don't. It makes no sense, but
it didn't fit the situation of the conversation.
No, it's like your technologically impaired relative that just discovered like, oh man, I know how to do Instagram reels now, and it's just like just a picture like the floor for 5 seconds, like a video of the floor for 5 seconds or whatever. Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. All right, Doug here has a question. How do you guys feel about the new EA college football cover that came out? Yeah, it's one of those kind of We Are the World covers. It's got like everybody's represented in some form or fashion, or at least a lot of the major players. Yeah, you got a few players, got a couple of coaches. See Kirby Smart's over there. See Ryan Williams in the front there. You see some good players, and then some fans wearing gear in the back there. Marcus Freeman's right there. You can see him. What do you guys' thoughts of it? Is that Tim? Who's that?
It stinks.
Yeah.
Tebow, yeah.
I don't get it. Why is Tebow there? Why is Reggie Bush there? What happened to the action shots of the cover boy, right? And, if you want to go multiple cover boys like last year, that's fine too. But, the best covers that we've seen have been guys hurling someone or stiff arming or celebrating a touchdown because it's a game footage, right? What do you want me to do? You want me to play the game? I want to envision my favorite player or the best player in college football doing something athletic. I don't like this. I don't like the pandering to the everybody's going to buy this game. You don't need to put everybody in this game represented. And, Texas, we've talked about it.
There he is.
They don't have Arch. There's no Sark. Obviously, they declined this as I reported back in February. And that obviously sets up for what could come next year with College Football 27. But look, I don't like it, but I understand. I'm going to buy the game. I'm going to play it. I'm going to sit here and talk about how great it is in about 4 months anyway. But bring back the big days of just those iconic NCAA, Madden cover days. I thought it was much cooler than, everybody's friendly here. We got the heart hands up on one of them.
Yeah, I think that they're trying to. I did it just trying to appease as many fan bases as they can with it. And are they gonna have the regional covers, or is this it? This one and the other one? They used to have like some. Oh damn!
My thing is though, EA could do regional covers, right? I think there's enough distribution at this point to be able to do regional covers. Number one, number two. Man, I would say enjoy it and relish the fact that you've got active players on the cover of this and you've got players in the game. Some of y'all will not know the struggle of being on the Sega Genesis and playing Bill Walsh's college football back in the day, when the cover was just like Bill Walsh. And I love Bill Walsh, but Bill Walsh on the sideline with a headset, Rod, is not exactly the way to sell a video game to that male 18 to 34 demographic. It's not going to get anybody excited. So I'd say just relish this. Yeah, we need 64-bit Rod Davis on the cover.
Oh, CB, man, trust me, it hurts my feelings to look at that picture. That it's just bad. The pixelated. I mean, I look all like a block. Yeah, Roblox is a great description of it. I don't even know how we enjoyed playing video games like that back in the day, but that's how your boy looked. It was just terrible. Yeah, exactly. I don't even brag about it. I do have the game still. Actually, I don't know if it still works. I gotta blow some dust off of it and see one day if it still works. I do have it though. If you own a video game, you should own the game. So I do have the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a Longhorn Blitz Christmas present. Matt Butler and I got.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The NCAA game and then the Madden game you were in. We got
it's still that one. Yeah. I got to thank my man Jeff Howard, Matt Butler for that one.
Well, I get it, right? Sark and Arch turned it down, and I understand that. I get it totally. You couldn't have found Ricky, and couldn't have got wedged Ricky in there. Couldn't have run Colt up, see what Colt was doing. Couldn't have gotten in touch with VY. Tell me, VY wouldn't have done that.
Definitely would have done it. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I agree with you on that. So they got old school guys on here too, a lot of old school guys.
Oh, maybe I'm just Tebowed out. Okay, maybe that's it.
I would say this, going back to our other conversation that we had, how much money they give each player that signed the deal to allow their image to be used by EA Sports? Was it $600 or something like that?
I think so, yeah, and a copy of the game too.
That was to be in the game. Now the cover guys, I'm not sure.
That's a good point. Yeah, you're right. Cover guys, they got their own separate deals. Like the
Yeah.
cover, good point. Yeah.
And even then, last year you didn't see 100% acceptance for, I would say the majority of rosters, and it's always surprising, right? Whenever you're given the free game, you're given $600. That's the OTF edition right there.
Yes, deluxe edition indeed.
Look how terrible that looks, man.
That is incredible.
God, look at that.
Look, you made Ryan Williams mad, Rod, that they put you next to him. Look, it's like, hey.
Yeah, that's the closest I'll ever get to covering somebody like that. Seriously.
But that's perfect. Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith don't want that smoke, do they, Rod? They can't handle virtual Rod Babers.
Matthew is out of control, man. Out of control. That's why he's the best in the business, too. Great day. Good job. Oh, yeah. Make sure you're at OTFOG on that one.
Rod, I saw a video today. Shout out to Coach Dan Casey, who puts out some great social media content, just like old school football plays. It was Judd Davies, the old Nebraska fullback, it was like a fullback trap against Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we need to plaster this everywhere anytime we do a live stream, because I don't say it lightly, Rod, when you had to be the nickel back and you had to take on the Nebraska fullback as the lead blocker, like that was the Nebraska fullbacks back in the day were nothing to be trifled with.
Oh no, man. No, and they were pulling guards and stuff coming around. Oh no, I have no idea why Bull Reese wanted me in there. It made no sense. He wanted to play nickel. It's like, why are we playing nickel against Nebraska? They're running option football. Why are we having nickel in there? Put another linebacker or another D lineman on the field. But they had me out there for a few plays.
Yeah, the young Rod Babers, fresh out of Houston Lamar, staring down like full cage face masks and neck rolls.
Oh yeah. It was like Dominic Raiola pulling.
You're a better man than me, Rod. I'll say that.
Real quick, while we're talking about the game, before we move on to another topic here, one of the conversations we were having earlier about potential unionizing for college sports. One of the things they should have did was get more money for that game. Every player got $600. Like CJ said, the cover guys probably got their own negotiated deals, but everybody got $600 in the game. You know how much money they made off of that game? And that game did over $1 billion in revenue. Yeah. They made a lot of money off that game.
Is there a lot of downloadable content in season? Because I don't have a new system, so I only play it, every now and then when I'm at a buddy's house or something and they got it. Is there a lot of downloadable content in season? Because that's how they get you with the microtransactions.
Yeah. I don't know. Believe it or not, I didn't play it a whole lot after the season began. I was pumped. Like many a night where I didn't sleep early on in like August, and then, hey, we got a job. I can't.
Exactly.
I got to.
Sounds like you got a job now.
I got to turn it off at some point. Go back upstairs. Go to sleep. So I kind of gave it up once the season began, and we're out on the road doing all sorts of stuff. But the one thing that I think would be a heavy ask, but I think would be certainly worth it, is if they have game updates where overalls or player ratings improve or decrease depending on how they're doing, right? I think if you look back at Arizona State at the beginning of last year, I think you would argue now, oh yes, Cam Scatterboom and Sam Levitt are severely underrated. That would take a lot of effort, obviously. But I think it would be worth it. I think it'd be something that if you could just update throughout 2 or 3 weeks at a time, the game would improve significantly. So I know 2K does it, but you only have to deal with 350 players or so in the entire league. 450, I think, is what it is. I can't imagine having to do this for everybody would be sustainable, but I think it would be something that I would, try to invest in if I'm EA Sports here.
That's a good point. All right. Thank you for that question, Doug. It's a good conversation. Matthew says, can y'all explain what y'all mean by revenue sharing and collective bargaining agreement? Well, revenue sharing, the house settlement, I'm not sure how the house settlement is going to do, but in the NFL, essentially, they split the NFL Players Association and the owners. Basically, they split the revenue. I believe it's like 48.8% split for the players, but it's pretty close to 50-50. I think it increases a little bit every year as the CBA ages. They get a little bit more, but it's pretty close to 50-50. Like all the revenue they make, the NFL is probably making, I want to say it's like $23 billion a year or something like that. 23, 24 billion. I'm sure there's some. It's hard to get those numbers because not every team, allows their books, all right, to be public record and gives those numbers up. But the estimate is that's how much they make, and the players and the owners, they split that money pretty much.
Yeah.
In terms of the salary cap and how much is devoted to salary, how much they have to spend on the players and salaries and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and hashtag Sark After Dark commented a while back on this, that's where part of the $40 million number came from, was the portion of the house settlement that is expected to go to football. And I think that's part of where maybe Sark had an issue with what was reported, which until the house settlement is finalized and the schools have that money, those dollars aren't going to like NIL deals. So Texas didn't have this extra pool of like $15 to $20 million to go spend in the portal. Like they don't have that money yet. That money is expected to come in, and it's going to be budgeted down the road accordingly. But until you have it, it theoretically doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I don't think every school is gonna spend that much, like be able to spend much.
Like take a school like Kansas, right? And I didn't talk to Travis Goff before this show, the AD there, so I'm just doing a hypothetical here. Like I would imagine KU, their house settlement money, they're probably not going to do like what Georgia's done. With Georgia, I saw a report where they're going to let Kirby use almost all of their house money settlement on football.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine KU's probably going to want to take some of that house settlement money and put it toward basketball.
Yeah.
Duke would probably do the same thing. I imagine like Kentucky would do the same thing. So it just depends. I think Texas, look, football is the most expensive sport, even before you factor in NIL deals. So a good chunk of that house settlement money is going to go toward football. But I would think, CDC wanting to have the best athletic department in the country, they're going to give Sean Miller's going to get a little bit, and Vic Schaefer's going to get a little bit, and so will Jarrett Elliott and Schloss and so on and so forth. It's just not going to be near what football gets because, again, it's one of those deals like, football makes a lot. They also spend a lot, too.
And they pay the bills.
Yep.
Yeah, Lily football pretty much pays the bills for all the other sports. And so you got to invest in football, takes money to make money. You invest in football makes a lot of money, and then you have money to invest in the other sports. That's how it's going prior to the house settlement. I think that's how it's going to go for Texas anyway after the house settlement.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff there. Thank you, Matthew, for that question. Let's thank another one of our sponsors before we move on. Let's thank our friends at Advanced Pain Care. Just learned recently there's one really close to the house. So excited about that. And somebody else who's excited about Advanced Pain Care is legendary lifetime Longhorns, Colt McCoy and Vince Young. And they have a message for you.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Right. There's no greater slap in the face, Rod, to where you are in life than seeing a gray bearded Vince Young like really straining to do a groin stretch during
Father time comes for us all, Jeff.
He's undefeated, man. He is undefeated and untied.
Yeah, sure. That and what Bill Belichick is dealing with are undefeated. All right. Let's get to some of the questions here. Let's get to Marco says, Rod, how do summer workouts compare and contrast between college and NFL teams? Well, I think a lot of your NFL stuff is not done with the team, pretty much. I mean, college, the beautiful thing about college is you're always with the guys, like always. We go to class. We've got most of us got class together, or in some same area of campus. You eat together. You either live in the dorms, or you got roommates that are also teammates, and they probably stay in some similar complexes. Or else back when we were broke. Now they got NIL. Them dudes staying downtown. They do a lot of this. So now it may not be like that. Back in my day, you kind of stayed together too, around in the same apartments, that kind of stuff. And so you're just always there. So you work out together too. And in the NFL, a lot of your off-season workouts are done on your own with individual training. You can get a group of guys together for a week or something like that. A lot of that stuff is done individually, and then you have your OTAs where you come together in mini camps. That thing. So they try to have like a slow build up to everything. And then like you don't really have. I know there's no form of OTAs in college. Like you just kind of start out right at training camp, boom, you go right into training camp, into the season. The NFL, everything's a build-up, right? You got OTAs, and then you got your mini camps, and then you got your actual training camp, and then you got preseason, and then you got the actual season. Like everything's supposed to be kind of a slow build-up. College doesn't really work that way. So I just think college, a lot of team-oriented stuff because you're with the guys all the time. NFL, just like the league, is professional. Less team-oriented stuff in the offseason. It's on you. The responsibility will be. Now, you can use the facilities. I mean, I never went home when I was with the Detroit Lions because I was hurt all the time, and I wanted the coaches to see me. So I would just stay up there I stayed in Detroit. And also, guys, you ain't going to stay in Detroit in the offseason. I stayed in Detroit in the offseason because I wanted to train, and I wanted the coach to be like, man, Rod B still. I think that's why I stayed around Detroit longer than I did any other team. It's like, at least Rod B's devoted. Like I went home for like a weekend. I go right back up to Detroit, and I would literally train there at the place because I want the coaches to see me there, working out and devoted. But most guys, they don't train at the facilities. You can, but they try to get away from the facilities during the off season. They do their own thing with a lot of private coaching. That's why the private coaching industry has really, it's become a multi-billion-dollar industry in itself. Just kind of private individual coaching. A lot D-line specialists, DB specialists all over, and they coach all levels, right? NFL guys, they coach, college guys, and then high school guys. They try to actually start with the high school guys, and then once that guy gets drafted, then you get a reputation. All right, and you got a couple of guys like the ATX guys. A couple of guys. What's Fleck? What's his name?
Bernard Blake.
Bam, right?
Bernard Blake.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Alan Clark now. He got his start as well. He was training or still does some off-season work with 70-plus NFL guys that got drafted. Obviously, when he took the Texas job from Ohio State, Ohio State's defensive lineman, it was JTT and Jack Sawyer were like, look, man, we wouldn't be here without Alan Clark, and we've already heard that's paying off for the Longhorns, but it all started with that kind of private training situation. You get the trust of some big-name guys, you really make a name for yourself, and for Bernard Blake and Bam Performance down here in Austin specifically, look no further than that entire Texas secondary from a year ago. Got the Thorpe winner, Jade, Andrew Makuba, a second-round pick, a second-team All-American, Michael Taff, and now you're starting to work with Jelani McDonald, get some of these new cats onto campus as well. I think it's going to be a pretty successful season for the Longhorns, and a lot of that because of Bam Performance, Bernard Blake.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Two quick things on that. One, the best example of that probably in the NFL today. I remember when Bobby Stroop started training guys out in East Texas, out in Tyler with his APEC facility. He had Dalton Santos and Trey McTwire, some guys like around that 2009, 10, 11 recruiting cycle. One of his first clients was Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't do the big scale training anymore. He is paid just to train Patrick Mahomes. Like that is what he does. That's Bobby Stroop's job now. He's Mahomes' guy. The other thing too, Rod, you're talking about the practice structure. I think this is interesting because I saw Sark mention this today, and I saw just some stuff trickling out from the SEC meetings. I think we're going to see the practice structure in the spring and summer change because there's a lot of push now by the coaches to have some kind of formal practice, like an OTA style practice in June, to either basically what it sounds like, Rod, is spring ball is going to basically be like your OTA time.
Yeah.
June's going to be your mini camp, and then late July, early August is your equivalent of training camp. That's basically how it sounds like this is going to go.
They better expedite the construction on that indoor facility ASAP if that's the scheduling. Because, look, it gets pretty hot in late April, early May. I couldn't imagine going full pads, just like for these spring practices that go up to about 2 hours on the field, man, good luck.
Yeah,
June, July.
I think ultimately because Sark always talks about the NFL, and the NFL is really notoriously light in terms of the OTAs and mini camps. Like it's, they and the CBA actually dictates this. They don't put on full pads, none of that kind of stuff, and they're limited in terms of the physicality and hitting they can do. Sark seems like that kind of guy, especially what he did this spring. So if Texas has that kind of, if that does pass, I think Sark, he's going to take it just like the NFL and kind of apply it, in my opinion, the same type of structure. Just because he said it at the spring meetings again, he said the thing that'll keep you from winning a championship. He actually said he doubts there's ever an undefeated champion again. Just because the amount of games you got to play. Yeah. And he said guys get hurt. He said injuries are just a big part of it. So he's been talking about that a lot, like just the depth on the team and how that is tested throughout a 16-game season, always compares it to the NFL. So I think Sark looking ahead is going to be very progressive when it comes to the way he handles that.
The other thing too that I really hope it catches on, and it's probably the best thing I've heard Deion Sanders say since he got the Colorado job. I'm a fan of joint practices. I really am. Like if you're only going to have a certain portion of your off season where you're, full pads and full tilt in practice, why risk, letting your guys hurt each other? Like if again, hypothetically, right? Texas is no longer in the Big 12. Sark and Mike Gundy are pretty tight. What if Sark said, "Hey, come down here for a week. We'll host you. We've got a place for your guys to stay or whatever. Let's have some practices, a little scrimmage work. We're not going to play each other unless it's in the playoff. So, hey, let's go ahead and make it happen." That's just one hypothetical, but I'm a big fan of the idea of joint practices.
Yeah, I am as well. And, the more I think about it, the tougher I think it is. Because where, for Texas specifically, is there a place for 200 padded players to practice, without bumping into? Is there just a space? Is it logistically possible? I don't question the ability to come down for 3-4 days for a program, stay up in, whatever hotel you want to name, just bus on over, especially if you just look at it, UTSA down the road, Texas State's right down the road. It's comparable talent that could give you enough look. For those two programs specifically, I think they would love to see that exposure to higher level competition and get those guys a little bit more prepared for the upcoming season. But look, Texas doesn't have a lot of room already, right? You have the bubble, you got the outside, you got a back, kind of like a half field in the back at Dennis, and then you got DKR. And until that new practice facility is built, that's what you're left with. Do you have the room for everything? If you split it up, offense versus a defense, and then a defense versus an offense at two different spots, if you're a head coach, or how are you able to divvy up where you need to be? Now, I think it would be great. Again, now, what I mean by that is if Texas's offense and the Texas State defense went over to DKR, but you left everybody else, at Dennis, and you had the Texas defense versus the Texas State offense, you know what I'm saying? If you're Steve Sarkisian, are you making sure that you're seeing everything? I think is one of the big things for me. So joint practices, again, I'm all on board with it, but you got to make sure that every school that signs up for it has the housing for these guys. And if you do it in the summer, hey, just go use one of the empty dorm rooms. I think that would solve a lot of the housing or lodging questions as well. So we'll see if it ever becomes something, but I think college football tremendously would benefit from that.
I think, Rod, it'd be great for your young guys because, Sark right now, like you look at where Sark is, he's thinking, all right, we've got to hope our non-conference games go according to, other than Ohio State, but the last 3 non-conference games go according to plan, that we can get our young guys a requisite number of snaps. If you're doing joint practices, it's no different than spring ball. You probably don't want to expose a guy like Colin Simmons or Anthony Hill more than you absolutely have to. But, a guy like Bo Barnes or Lance Jackson or just go down the roster of your first and second year guys. You're going to tell me they wouldn't benefit from, a couple of 60-play scrimmages, 80-play scrimmages against another FBS team? No, man. It's getting your young guys better, and it's damn sure going to get whoever you're hosting or whoever you're doing the joint practices with, it's damn sure going to get them better.
Yeah. No, it's become really popular in the NFL to try to break up the kind of the mundane nature of training camp and stuff. Those joint practices gets really competitive. That's a good point. Could be getting there too. All right, let's hit a couple of more questions. Oh, we got a super chat from Josie. Says, coming in late But if Mark Mangino did the cannonball, Wesley would still be committed.
Wesley might have got hurt.
Oh,
He got in there a split second late.
That would have been a hell of a cannonball, man. I would get away from the pool if I was close.
Mm-hmm.
That was Mark Mangino. I'd get to the side.
There was a season, you forget, where Mark Mangino in Kansas almost played for a national championship.
Oh, I remember.
That doesn't qualify the 2007 college football season as being like the most wheels off, just
Aqib Talib balling out there, right? Aqib Talib was playing offense and defense out there. Yeah. I remember
it was 2007. Like you had a deal where, Missouri and Kansas and Missouri played in the border war in the last game of the regular season. And I just remember thinking, it's Kansas and Missouri. Whoever wins this game is going to be number one in the country and go play for the Big 12 championship next week. Like, how insane was that to think about?
I
still can't believe it.
No, that's one of the great. I always say this: if you want to look at like just great coaching jobs, period. I know we always just look at the teams that won championships, right? Oh, great! Of course, it's a great coaching job to win a championship, and we always look at that. But there's sometimes where, man, you kind of go look at kind of the overall like totality of the accomplishment. That was one of the greatest coaching jobs in the history of college football. And honestly, I think they Lance Lepo, they're kind of doing it again. They did it again, but it was amazing to see where Kansas used to be, and where he brought them. Because I remember playing Kansas, guys. We would literally be looking in the stands and stuff like that by the time we had to play by halftime. Like we'd be looking in the stands at ladies and stuff like that. Like they were terrible. That was a terrible football program.
Oh.
And they couldn't get a lot of talent. Even that team was talented, but it wasn't as talented as some of the teams they were beating in the Big 12.
Yeah.
That was good. That was coaching, man. That was a hell of a coaching job.
That's why I always say, man, if I'm power ranking college football coaches in my lifetime, like Rod, we just did a deal, which you can get on the channel and see this. Rod and I did it over the weekend looking at the Athletics, some of their stuff from in the 2000s, the best of. And if I'm power ranking coaches, Bill Snyder's going to be in my top 5 because he took over a Kansas State program. They almost shut the program down. That's how bad they were. And they debated, do we even want to play football anymore? And came really close to playing for a couple of national championships at K-State.
Yeah, that's freaking crazy. So it says ladies in Kansas, Rod. Okay, you know what I mean. We just great point. I don't know how many fine women was in the stands, but maybe when they came to Texas, we were looking at stands of ladies at that time. Paul says Rod was stealing food from the NFL cafeterias to save money and invited girls over just like he did college. Hey, no, Paul, you're right. The Detroit cafeteria, Detroit actually had one of the best facilities at the time I was there. They had just built it. That's why they got the Super Bowl when I was with them. They had just built all of their facilities, and they had a state-of-the-art cafeteria. And they would just cook meals. They cooked breakfast, they cooked lunch, and they cooked like a meal right before they left. I think it was like at 4 o'clock or something, another meal. I ate all my meals up there, and it was all free. I saved a ton of money doing that. I would just eat and it was good food. Like it was like cafeterias, right? It was like Luby's. It was like eating at Luby's. That's what the Detroit cafeteria. It was good soul food too, because it was a brother in the back cooking. It was good. It was real good food.
Luby's the only place you can get Jello and fried okra.
Hey, what your sister CJ know about that soul food? There you go. It was good. That was actually they had some of the best facilities in all the NFL. By the way, NFL, not everybody has good facilities, guys. Like Kansas City is a dynasty. They got some of the worst facilities in the NFL. I mean, terrible. I talked to even DJ about it. They were bad then. They're bad now.
Yeah.
Some owners are just cheap. When I was with Tampa Bay, we were in, those temporary buildings you have at schools, like the outside buildings schools. That was one of our like coaching. That was one of our rooms. Like that was one like the position rooms. I'm telling you, you think NFL teams are spending? No, man, they're billionaires for a reason. They don't want to spend. They keep their money.
John Gruden probably thought it was going to give y'all some kind of edge, Rod. Like, let me psychologically just psych these guys out.
You know what? It did. They were tough now. They won. I mean, they were tough. So portables. Thank you, Marco. Yeah, they had portables out there, like position rooms. They might change it now, but back when I played, that's how it was.
CB has the ultimate Detroit question for you, though, Rod.
Uh-oh. What's
Did
that?
you ever go to 8 Mile Road?
Yeah, I got my haircut on 7 Mile. Speaking of soul food, some of the best soul food you'll get is off there, like on 7 Mile. Basically, like that's kind of the more urban areas. Like Detroit, the whole damn Detroit is urban. What am I talking about? But it's even more urban out there. But I'm from H-Town, so I'm from Southside H-Town. Everybody was like, don't go to 8 Mile. I was like, man, this is where I was like, I'm at home. It kind of reminds me of like in H-Town on the South Side. Like I was like when I got drafted by the Giants, I was looking for a cheap place to live. And I bought a place in Patterson. And I told the guys, they was like, where you living, young boy? I was like, yeah, I got a place in Patterson. He was like, what the hell? They was like, dude, you live in Patterson? He was like, that's like one of those dangerous places on the East Coast. I was like, oh, my bad. I was looking for somewhere cheap to live and found a nice little high-rise condo there. I thought it was good. Turns out it was a really dangerous place, but, trying to save a little bread. I remember when I got to Austin, one of the professors used to tell us like places that don't go. Like don't get caught in Wilco. Don't spend too much time on the east side. First time I got an apartment, I jumped on the east side. It was cheap.
Yeah,
it was cheap. And to this day, I wish I had bought actual property on the east side, because then I'd be living real good right now. Just set on that property on the east side. All right. Thank you, Paul, for that. Getting back to it. How about this one from Bobby? It says Arch goes down in game 2. What does the season look like with Odom? Damn, knock on.
Oh, Bobby, the chat's not going to like you for this question, but I get it, right? Texas has been hampered or hamstrung, whatever you want to say, with quarterback injuries over the last few years. Really for the last 2 decades, right? I know y'all have brought up the numbers, but what does it look like? Well, you better hope that run game is good, right? You better hope that you can sustain consistent offense and scoring with the running game specifically. Will it be Arch, or will it be Trey Owens? Will it be Matthew Caldwell? Right now I lean Trey Owens, right? We still got to see how things play out, because Caldwell has been a starter at the Division I level before, even though, Troy's not necessarily a big time program. Point being, he's at least played some meaningful football before. The question is, will you have the horses around your QB to basically take the keys out of his hands, and he becomes a passenger for your offense? Texas probably relies a whole lot more on those quick screens, the RPO, just some of those go-tos for Sark where the brain is just kind of taken out and it's all instincts. I think that's where you see the offense go, especially if the run game is successful. You probably won't see the deep shots down the field or the longer lasting route concepts that we're expecting with Arch Manning. And that's obviously the expectation, because Arch is going into year 3. The playbook should be completely open for him, but you're obviously going to be hamstrung. The offense will be significantly worse. The offense probably won't have a national championship ceiling without Arch Manning. And that's, again, the expectation. Very rarely do you find teams in college football that have multiple championship level quarterbacks on the roster that can come in and compete and sustain that level of play. And right now, I don't think Texas would have that high level championship level of play with multiple quarterbacks, even with the defense, even with the offensive line surrounding pieces. So yeah, kind of dumbed down, run game, quick passes, RPOs, and an occasional shot. Hopefully you don't have to see it at all.
I think it'll be going back to the from a pass game standpoint, because I think a lot of your quarterback run stuff that you would do with Arch, I think that's out with Trey Owens for the most part. He's just a different kind of athlete and quarterback. But I think it starts, CJ, like you said, with a lot of the staples that we saw with Quinn, but you're building to those Arch staples, because let's not forget, man, Trey Owens is a big arm. And if I'm Sark, I want to protect that big arm, but I don't want to just render it useless. I want to say, so instead of, it just probably changes the number of shots you call per game, probably the number of those NFL style throws that you have in the offense. I agree with you there, CJ, but I think you still got to have that, because if I'm Sark, I want to play to Trey Owens' strengths, and man, he can make those kind of throws, some of those same throws that Arch can make.
Yeah, I guess it would kind of mirror that of a Kansas State Malik Murphy. What was he doing very well, very often in that game was throwing the ball very deep, right? That first half, it looked like, Malik Murphy's going to be a heck of a player. And then you start to see the wheels start to turn. You get a rock stuck up in there, and You see the inexperience linger, and that's what you're trying to avoid with one of these younger backup quarterbacks is take the thinking out of it, play instinctually, let the guys around you elevate the play of the offense.
Yeah, it's good stuff, guys. And yeah, I know some people were saying, that Matthew Caldwell is going to end up being the backup. Question was about what if, Trey Owens, how offense look with him at the helm. I do understand, yes, that there is a competition, ongoing competition about who that backup quarterback going to be, and it could very well end up being, Matthew Caldwell. All right, let's thank another one of our sponsors. Let's thank Mark Saunders before we move on here. We'll hit a couple of more questions and talk about some of the things Sark had to say at the SEC spring meetings. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects it all? Well, here's some great news for you. Local Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local in the Austin, Round Rock area, give him a call today, 512-218-8571. And thank you very much to lifetime Longhorn Mark Saunders and his support of On Texas Football. And if you need to reach out to Mark for insurance reasons, to get something covered, a house or a car or life, any type of insurance, please feel free. He'd be open to hearing whatever you got to say. 512-218-8571. Thank you very much to Mark Saunders for sponsoring our Tuesday live stream.
Those of you mad at Bobby Petronic for asking the hypothetical arts question, he redeemed himself in the chat because there's a debate in the chat about the Varsity Blues quarterback room and who was better, John Moxon or Lance Harbor. I'm going to go with Harbor because you've got more quarterback run game. How about that? So thank you, Bobby Petronic, for redeeming yourself.
Hold on, Mox couldn't run?
No, it strikes me more of a cerebral type guy, Rod. Kind of gets by on moxie for part of some of that. Yeah. Some of that stuff Case McCoy got by with.
Irrational confidence.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Hey man, when you got the whipped cream scene, as we all remember, that's what got his head blown up, man. It's the whipped cream scene. Yeah, I mean that would have messed up any young man's head right there. Let's get back to a couple of comments that Sark made. I want to get you guys' thoughts about it at the SEC spring meetings before we get done. And I see a couple other questions. We'll get to those too, guys. I promise before the day is done. But when Sark was asked, and I saw Bobby with this quote, when he was asked what position surprised him the most this spring, he said he felt like a lot of them exceeded expectations. But Bobby said he landed on discussing the linebackers. He said he felt like the variety and ability at the position is something he had perhaps undervalued going into camp. Thought that was interesting. He also, I believe, Bobby said he did elaborate on those linebackers quite a bit, basically saying that it was a surprise but a pleasant one about how deep that position is. And we talked about it here on the show, on some of our shows, that group right now, the diversity and depth of that linebacker group, it may end up kind of determining really the identity of the defense a little bit too, depending on how they want to use all those different guys. Oh, thank you very much, Matthew. That's why you're the best.
That linebacker room, man, it's like a salad bar. You got a lot of variety on that thing.
Yeah.
Everybody. I like the fact that you've got, between Spence, Hill, Trey Moore, including him in there, you got some really good natural pass rushers in that linebacker room. And then I still, CJ, I don't know where you stand on this, because I don't think you and I talked a lot about this guy, but I just feel like there's going to come a point in the year where you're going to need to play, rely on more, nickel or dime personnel, and it's going to be opponent specific. I think when you do that and you have to go quote unquote smaller and think about playmaking in space a little bit more, I feel like Ty Anthony Smith, that's going to be kind of his ticket to playing time, and that'll be the area where in sub packages where he kind of grows into being a full-time linebacker. Being the more kind of full-time linebacker you're going to need him to be in 26. So yeah, we talk about the pass rushers, but I think the variety also includes Ty Anthony Smith is basically kind of a dime linebacker, a box a box safety, however you want to qualify him.
Yeah, I love this linebacking room. There's so much you can do if you play a Texas Tech, Mike Leach level offense. You have the guys that can play in space. Have a few have some safety background as well. If you play a Michigan stuff the run kind of team as well, you got plenty of guys weighing around 240 pounds that love coming downhill. And I look at what David Benda was able to do for this team last year, right? A guy that was very good going forward, playing on his toes, blitzing the quarterback, playing in run support. Now you have several more David Bendas, and probably a little bit more talented with a much heavier frame and bigger physical size to them. So it kind of just opens up what you could do. And, of course, having an Anthony Hill in the middle, well, you have the best of all worlds because he's a heck of a football player. But I'm really eager to see what steps Ty Anthony Smith takes. How does that linebacking room look now that you have a Brad Spence, now that you have a Trey Moore in that room? How versatile can you be? It's limitless right now with the guys Texas has and the experience that they're coming back with.
Yeah, well, that's good stuff. All right, let's thank our final sponsor of the evening, Andy Ludicky, one more time, and then we'll answer a couple more questions, and then we'll end tonight's live stream. But thank you very much to Andy Ludicky and his team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy and his team can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO, no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, reach out to Andy and he'll take you through a very detailed process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, reach out to Andy today at 404-973-9901, or you can reach out to him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. All right, Jay Wood 888 says, win or lose versus Ohio State, how do y'all think the media frenzy around Arch will impact the team? That is good.
I think from a player standpoint, I think guys will love it from the standpoint that they're not going to be asked a lot of questions about themselves. Especially like the guys going to SEC media days, like they're going to be asked a ton of Arch questions, which I'm sure gets annoying. But at the same time, if you're, Anthony Hill, I'm sure you take comfort in the fact that there's going to be a lot fewer people probably trying to pry into like the inner workings of like the linebacker room or PK's defense. You just have, I'm sure from that standpoint, Anthony Hill would much rather answer questions about what Arch had for breakfast that morning or where he likes to eat on campus or whatever they're going to ask about Arch.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't see it as a big detriment. I don't see it as a big bonus. Last year, I think it was more one of those, like, I'm sure the team probably got tired of hearing about Arch, but now that he's the face of your franchise, he's kind of the guy that's leading your team. I think you want to rally behind a guy, especially at the quarterback spot. So for the other positions, I think they're more so saying, hey, give me some shine, but keep all the tough questions over to Arch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's ultimately going to be a good thing. Guys these days, what's the great Andy Warhol quote, right? Everybody in the future will get their 15 minutes of fame. Well, we're at that point where all these guys are used to being public faces anyway and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think the kind of celebrity media frenzy, because Texas has a lot of it anyway. Like there's just being at Texas, there's a certain amount. Now, Arch is a different level, no question. But there's a certain amount of it anyway you deal with just being at Texas. And I think a lot of these guys came here for that. They like that. They like that extra hype around their team. They like being a part of the big games, that kind of thing. So if anything, I think it's part of the added value that they expect.
I think too, the other part I'll add on Arch is twofold. One, Arch has been everything in his life has been building toward this. Like he's been preparing for this moment for forever, ever since it was pretty obvious that, all right, he's going to be really good throwing a football. Let's get him ready for everything that's going to come his way. And, CJ, we were both there when Texas made Arch available in the spring. Like he's already mastered the art of, respectfully, truthfully, insightfully answering a question without really giving you a whole lot. Like
it's a work of art.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, but you're like, well, wow, that was a great answer Arch just gave it. Then you go back and listen to the audio, you're like, man, he really didn't give away anything, but yet it really sounded like it was interesting. So he's already mastered that. I think the other thing too, as far as the NIL stuff, because you don't have to go through the sports information department to get the guys, but Arch's family has such a handle on that's not going to be a problem in terms of his time constraints. And when it comes to how Texas handles it in-house, man, John Bianco and that crew in the sports information department of Texas, this ain't their first rodeo. They'll make Arch available, one day a week, probably on Mondays, and then after games, and that'll pretty much be all he has to do.
Yeah, Arch attends the University of Texas, and he's studying coach speak is how I've kind of phrased it now. Because to your point, Jeff, he doesn't give away a lot, and he says a lot. So, life of a QB1.
Yeah,
I remember Mac was great at that too. Say a whole lot and be entertaining, and yet not really give you a damn thing. They don't give you any real substance from it, but it just sounds entertaining. That's called handling the media, and I think he does that really well. I thank you, Matthew. We appreciate you handling business here on the show as always. You're the real MVP, so please give it up for my man Matthew. Thank you to our sponsors as well. Thank you to Advanced Pain Care. Thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team. Really appreciate them as well. We appreciate all of you guys for joining us too. Oh, Mark Saunders. I can't forget Mark Saunders. Thank you for Tim as well. And thank you to you guys out there for joining us. We'll be back. Of course, you got Coffee and Football bright and early tomorrow at 8:15. That'll be Bobby and Jerry. And then we'll have the Wednesday live stream. It may just be the same crew, actually, for the Wednesday live stream. So, hey, we'll be bringing it back. So if we missed any of your questions, I apologize about that. We'll have the exact same crew tomorrow. So get the questions ready to go. We'll be talking a lot about the SEC spring meeting, some of that stuff. Thank you guys for your participation. Great show as always. Thank you, Jeff. Great insight. Thank you, CJ. Great knowledge and expertise as always. And for Jeff and for CJ and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Rod B.